Hi everyone, I'm Rosemary and welcome to my class today. Today we're going to be painting this flip-flop box. Okay, this is the top and this is the bottom. I've stood it up here so that you can see it better. All right, now the designs that are on there, you can do whatever you want. Okay, so what I'm going to walk you through is how you should begin when you want to do designs on things. You always paint the background first. And even though the piece is white, it's not as white. I started this one. It's not as white. You can see the difference between where I painted the white paint and where I didn't paint it. It seals the background. Even though you want to keep it white, I would paint it white. Okay, don't do the inside of the box until last because I want to make sure that you have enough colors to do everything else that you want to do. And then with whatever colors you have left over, you can do the inside of this, the inside of this. So leave that until last. So when we do design, we do background first. So we're going to do the background. If you don't want to do it white, do it in a light color, not too dark, because it'll be a little bit harder to see your designs on top of it. But you are the artist today, so you can do whatever you choose. But what I want you to do is do the background of the top of the flip-flop box and do this edge here. And then we'll do the bottom and we'll just do the outside and the underneath. Then we'll go to the designs. So we'll do the straps next, and then we'll go to the designs. Now, all of you picked up your kits at the library, and they're, what you should have in front of you is a water bowl. You don't need a palette. I have a palette because I'm working from very large jars. That's how I fill up those little pods that you have. You need a paper towel, and you need your brushes. When you wash your brush, you swish it in the water and you always dry it on the paper towel before you go to the next color. If you go right from the water to the next color, your paints are going to run. So just do it very gently, wash it and then dry it on the towel. And don't bang them. Swish them in the direction of the hairs of the brush and you'll have the brush for quite a while. All right, now I started this one and I'm doing the white, so I feel that when I do my designs, it's easier for you to see the designs on the white. But like I said, you can do whatever color you want. Don't put a lot of paint in your brush, and don't dip for more paint until you run out of the color that's in the brush. Okay, work both sides of the brush back and forth. If you get a little bit on the straps, it's okay. I mean, sometimes it takes a couple of coats of the next color to cover, but you will be able to cover it. Okay, so I'm not going to do the whole back. I'm just going to do the top so you could see it, but I think you should do this whole edge in the white. I did, and then I did yellow inside. But like I said, don't do the insides until last. And then you'll make sure that you have enough color for the areas that you want to do, and then your leftover color, you can do the insides of the box. And you see which one you have a lot of. Or you could even swirl different colors on the inside. It doesn't have to all be the same color. I know that you are sometimes, when I do these library classes with the children, you're more creative than I am. I see the things that you do, and it's inspiring. So I appreciate all of you taking this class and getting these kits and continuing to spread ceramics, because this has been a labor of love of mine for a long time, and it's a great hobby. It's very relaxing and creative, and yet it's for everyone, even if you're not that creative. Everyone can do this. So, okay, so I did the top of the box, and so now I'm going to swish my brush in the water. Swish it, don't bang it, swish it, swish it, swish it. And if the paint's not coming out of the hairs, sometimes I just do this with my finger and just swish it and then dry it on the paper towel. Okay? And now I'm going to go to the next color. So what should we do on the bottom? How about we do purple on the bottom? So these are the large bottles I told you that I use to fill up those pods. So I'm going to put a little bit out. I know sometimes those pods are a little hard to open, so if you have someone around, a parent or a friend or someone, they can help you open them because they are a little tight. I have to use those so that they don't leak, you know, in transporting them back and forth. So now, like I said, I'm not going to do the inside. I'm going to do the outside. And I always start on the bottom so that I can put it down. It'll dry fast, okay? And then I'll be able to put it down. So nice and smooth. Look what a beautiful color that is. Okay, it's a beautiful purple. And you could do 2 and 3 colors on the outside. It doesn't have to be one. I'm going to stick to the one color. Makes it easier to teach that way. But you can do whatever colors you like. And like I said, you can pause the video. You don't have to keep up with me. You can stop it. You can rewind it. You can pick it up at another time if you don't finish it today. When I paint ceramics, and I'm in a class, I always try to finish my piece in the class. But the next day, I always go back and I call it like I tweak it. I look at it and say, okay, what don't I like and what do I like? And then touch it up just a little bit, and it gives it a little finishing touch. Okay, so see, nice and smooth. This color goes on really, really well. Nice and smooth. And you see I work back and forth with the brush. I use the flatness of the brush. This is called a square shader brush. And it's nice to put on background areas because it's flat. It's a lot harder to do with the other brush. But the other brush we'll use when we do the straps and to do any edging. If you go out of the lines and you want to touch it up, you can use the smaller, pointier brush to do that. Okay. So nice and smooth. And if you notice, when I put my colors on, they dry almost immediately. I can touch that color and have nothing on my finger as long as you spread it out. If you put the color on like this and you leave it very wet like that, it's going to take forever to dry. So always pull your color out as far as it will go. Nice, it smooths it and it also dries it. Okay, and then you'll be able to put your other colors on top of it. If you want to do design on the bottom, feel free, you can do that also. But make sure you have the bottom color has to be dry before you start putting colors on top of it. And that works for doing acrylics anyway. You don't want to put wet color on top of wet color because it'll only mush it together. So I'm doing, see now this is almost dry, and I'll be able to sit this down. Now see that I just did that, and that's dry already. As long as you pull it out, it'll stay dry. So I'm going to go around and do the edge so that I can sit it on the table to do the upper part. It's a little more difficult to paint when you're holding things up in the air. Bracing them down makes your hand a little steadier. Same thing with your hands. I try to lean my arm on the table when I work. Okay, so now I have that whole bottom edge done, and I can, it's dry enough on the bottom that I can sit this down. And now I can paint this top edge. Now, like I said, I'm not going to do the inside right now. I'm just going to do the outside. And then when we have a lot of color left over, you can mix your colors together. You never know what you're going to get, but you can mix your colors together. You could do the bottom in one color and the sides in another color. So you could use up all the paint that you have that you haven't used to do everything else you wanted. So that's why I say leave it till last, because this does take quite a bit of paint. Almost done. I need just a drop more paint. You should have plenty in those little pots to do them, to do the piece. And if not, then do it in 2 or 3 different colors on the outside. It doesn't have to be all one color like I'm doing. You could do the bottom a different color. You could do the sides a different color. Be creative. Like I said, you are the artist. Okay, so now I have all the color on the bottom, and then we're going to go back to the top part and we'll allow this to dry for a couple of minutes. Okay, and again, I swish my brush in the water, I wipe it out, I do it a second time to make sure I get all the color out, and I wipe it out. Okay, so now I'm going to sit this aside, and I'm going to work on the straps. Now since I did orange on there, now you can do the orange. Since I have purple on there, I think I'm going to do yellow on the straps. But you can choose whichever color you want. Now I'm using the small pointy brush, and this has a nice point. If you bang it down, you'll lose your point. So make sure you always work it in the shape of the hairs of the brush. Okay, so now I'm going to start. I never start right on my edge because if I have too much paint in the brush, it might bleed out. So I start in the middle. And when there's less in the brush, I work my way around to the edge. Now this brush doesn't hold as much paint as the other one, so you'll find yourself continuously dipping. But just don't start right on the edge all the time. Okay, so I'm going to go around, I start in the middle, and when there's less in the brush, I work it toward the edge. Now with this one, you can bring it down onto the side. How did I do that? No, I didn't. Okay, so we'll just work it on the edge. Okay. I think I'm just going to do one strap because you get the idea. You could do the straps in 2 different colors. I'll finish just the one strap. But you should do both straps before you start doing any design work. And then we could do design. This is the boring part. Base coating is the boring part, and the design work is the interesting part. That's where you can be creative. You can use any devices that you have around that could make designs for you. Look, I got a little purple on there, which I'll probably put a design on that if I got a little blob like that. You can use toothpicks to do designs. You can use the back end of your brush to do designs. You can use a sponge on a stick if you have any of those round circular sponges on a stick. You can use those to do your designs. There are design tools out there, but if you have them, use them. If you don't have them, it doesn't pay to buy them. Okay, I'm almost done with this. Now I'm doing it fast, so I may not be as neat as you can be. You can take your time, don't rush it. Don't try to keep up with me. Just do it nice and neat. And if you go out of the lines, don't try to cover it up with the white now or the color you did on the background while it's wet. Remember, you do not put a wet color on top of a wet color. So you wait for that to dry and then you can go over it. Okay, so I pretty much did that. One strap on the flip-flop. Now I'm going to show you, I'm going to pick up the white and I'm going to touch up that little spot of purple, and I got one on the side because that purple spot is dry, so I touched it up with the white. But you can also put designs on it. Now a lot of these designs that are on here are done with the back end of the brush, okay? And I'll show you a bunch of different designs that you can do. You can do hearts, you can do dots, you can do the smiley faces. Maybe there's other things that I could do, flowers. Okay, so I'm going to put a couple of colors out, and I'm just going to do a couple of different designs, and then you can do whatever you'd like. So I have these colors here that I gave you. Actually, I can work from the cap on my bottles. And then I have a blue. Okay, let's start with a heart. Now, a heart can be done, I'm going to do it in orange. You dip the handle of the brush and you put 2 dots touching each other. Can you see that? It's 2 dots touching each other. Then you pull down in the middle of them with the handle. You just pull down from those 2 dots, you pull down, you don't even have to dip again. Put the 2 dots and then pull to the point underneath it, and that's how you get a heart. Now for a flower you're going to start with a center. Start with a center. And if you want it bigger, just circle the handle of your brush, okay? Just keep going around like that. So I'm going to start with the circle of the handle, and I'm going to do a yellow flower, okay? Now, the way you do a flower is you do 2 dots above that center dot. And like I said, if you want them bigger, just circle, 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 as if this is your brush. So you have 2 dots above the purple dot and 1 dot below it. I call that like my triangle. You see there's 2 above it and 1 below it, and they're not too far apart, just a little space between them. Now there's just the right amount of space on either side of that purple dot to make a circular flower. So now I'll put 1 dot on the one side, and everything gets spaced really well doing it this way. Okay, you see that? And that makes a perfect circle. Okay, so, or you can do what I did here and just do different dots of different colors. I did a circle of dots. And if you don't re-dip every time, your dots will get smaller and smaller as you go along. And then, let's wash that out. I did lines coming out. So So you can just do designs with the back end of the brush. Put a little center in there. And I did like a cross coming out of it. Oops, a little more paint. Okay, I did that. So there's so many different things that you can do. You can also do a flower with lines. Instead of putting dots with the back end of the brush, let's start out with a center first. Okay, so I'm going to do a center. All right. And now I'll do purple flower. I'm going to do lines. So I'm going to do, instead of dots above that, I'm going to do a line. Now you put the handle down and pull towards your center. And then do one up from the bottom. Okay, you see that? I always go in that triangle form to do a circle flower. And then on either side of that teal dot, there's just enough space to put your other two in to get a circular flower. Okay, so you always start out with the center dot, the two above it, and the one below the dot. And then the one on either side forms a perfect circle. Okay, now you can also do the leaves the same way. Leaves, if you wanted to do some leaves coming out of this flower, I put this down and then I pull to a point. See that? And then I put this down and pull to a point. Now, if you have markers work very well too, because if you can't work easily enough with your pointed brush, your markers can do lines. I'm going to do it with the brush and just give you an idea of how to do some lines coming out of these flowers also, like some vines coming out. You can okay, now I did it with the brush. I did it with the brush that you're using. But if you can't do it with the brush, if you get markers, I did something recently where I used purple markers. They're ultra fine point markers, really fine point. And you could do vines and things. You can work with whatever markers you want on this. Okay? All right, so now I'm going to try to do that smiley face for you. Let you see how I did that. Now, the black eyes and the mouth on my smiley faces are done with a marker, but you have to make sure that your color is very dry. So you want to do a circle and try to get that circle as big as possible. Now you can paint it in with the front hairs of the brush too. I'm trying to do it with the back, and it's not getting big enough. So I'm going to take the front hairs of the brush and I'm going to do a circle. Okay. Now I'm going to let that dry before I try to do a smiley face on that. And it doesn't have to be the black. You could do the smiley face with the purple, with whatever colors you want. But this is very wet right now, so I'm not going to do it now. You see how wet that is? You can still see it. If your colors are shiny like that, that means they're wet. When they're dull, they're dry. Okay, so again, I'm going to do another heart so you get an idea of how to do a heart again. I'll do it in the purple. I'll do a heart. You do two dots. Now this one is much bigger, and make sure the dots touch each other. Two dots touching down here on the bottom, two dots touching, and then just take your brush handle and pull from the wetness of the two dots. You pull down and get a center, a line. Just pull down to a point with the handle. You don't have to dip, just two dots and then pull. You don't have to dip for more paint. Okay, and then you also can you can just do like little 3-dot little sections. 1 dot, 2 dots, 3 dots. You can do that. You can just do a 3-dot design like on the bottom of this one here. It doesn't have to be, you know, a flower or anything like that either. You can do big circles if you want to do big circles. You know what works very well for a big circle? Excuse me 1 second. I'm going to grab an eraser so you can see it. The eraser of a pencil. This one doesn't have a very good eraser, but the eraser of a pencil also gives you a nice sized dot. Okay, see that? That one I just did right here, that's the eraser of a pencil. And that gives you a pretty big dot. Gotta make sure you get enough paint on it to get that big dot. Okay, see the size of that one there? All right, so there's quite a few designs, different designs that you can do. I'm sure that you'll be more creative than I am. Now, if you wanted to do some dots on the flip-flop straps, you also can do that. I think I'm going to do orange dots. Now, I want you to see that when you do one without dipping, you see how the dots get smaller and smaller? You can do that, or you can dip for every dot if you want them the same size. But if you want them to graduate down in size, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you'll see that I did it twice, how they get smaller and smaller each time if I don't dip every time. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and that's very easy to do. You can just do going around like that. You can do stitches. A toothpick is good to do stitches. If you wanted to do stitches, I'll do them with the brush, but a toothpick works really well. Make sure it's a pointy toothpick. And you can do stitches. I'll do stitches along this bottom edge down here. And it's just a little line. And it looks like stitches, like sewing. And I haven't dipped for more paint in my brush all the way around there. See the stitches on the bottom of this one? You could do stitches. You could do the stitches on these straps. So you can be very creative on your own. Markers do work well, but sometimes if the paint is a little thick or the paint is a little wet, you have to wait a while so the marker will work, or you have to wipe the tip of the marker, but it does work. And also too, see like that yellow flower, how boring that is? Oh, I just stuck my finger in something. Oh yeah, my little dots there. If you think that that flower is boring, you can go back once it's dry and put a dot in a dot. Okay, you see the center of that flower there? I just put a white dot in the center of the purple. Okay, so you can do that too. You could put dots inside of dots, but just remember, the underneath color has to be perfectly dry before you try to layer your colors, all right? I'm going to put one inside of this one too. I think it makes a big difference. All right. So that's how you do the box, and the designs are up to you. Then I would go back with whatever colors you have left over and do the inside, and you can also do the inside of this if you'd like. Okay. Now, sealing it, the colors are self-sealing. You really don't have to seal it, but if you wanted it to be a little bit shiny, it can be sprayed, but you have to have that done by your parents, and it has to be done outside. There's a Krylon spray. I use Dunkin' spray. Amazon carries it. Michael's carries, I think, Krylon. I'm not sure if Home Depot does. But to be safer, they have liquid paint-on sealers, and they're in a bottle, and they're liquid, and you just paint it on and you let it dry. They have a matte, and they have a gloss. I believe you can get them in Michael's, and Amazon does have them also. So if you want to seal it, you want to make it a little shiny. The other thing you could do is if you have paint-on glitter, they have liquid glitters in a jar. Make sure every color is perfectly dry, and you can glitter some of your areas also. The sprinkle-on glitter to me makes a mess, but if you had that, you'd have to paint glue and then sprinkle on the glitter. I like the glitters that come in a jar that are liquid and glitter together, and you paint it on. It's like glue and glitter. You paint it on, and you let it dry, and it's done, and you don't have that mess of the glitter all over the place. So I hope you enjoyed this class today. I thank you so much for being here and for enjoying ceramics, and I hope to see you all again soon. Enjoy your summer. Thank you.